Hey everybody, and welcome to the Stupek show, where we interview some of the world's most adventurous people on a weekly basis. Today, I have the privilege of inviting Adventure with Cam. Cam's going to be joining me on this radio or this live, and we're going to hear about her incredible adventure. And one second, and I think I just accepted her. Accept.
Thanks. Hello, how are you doing?
Hey, I'm great. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Let me adjust my camera a little bit. Okay, perfect. So where are you at right now?
I'm in Georgia now. I've done the biggest part and the hardest one, I think.
You went to Russia?
Yeah, I went to Russia, yeah.
Okay, so before we get into like the specifics and all that, let's just go through who you are and what it is you're doing, if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course. So I'm Cam, I'm French. I've lived in Canada for the past 7 years. And now it's been more than a year that I'm hitchhiking from Indonesia to France. And yeah, pretty much it.
Hitchhiking solo Indonesia to France. I'm going to get into the same question everyone always asks me. Why?
That's the big question, I think. Because it's there. I don't know, because I always wanted to go on a big adventure, and hitchhiking has always been a thing for me since like a long time ago, since I'm 15 or something. And then I wanted to go to Southeast Asia, but I also wanted to go to see my family back in France, but I don't want it to like take the plane so much. So I was like, well, let's just do it by hitchhiking, basically.
Why? Yeah, that's awesome. Why? So I've been in Europe a lot, and I've noticed hitchhiking isn't super easy. So I'm curious how it became something you did when you were 15, because I've tried hitchhiking in Italy and Spain, and no one picks me up.
Yeah, Italy is not my favorite, to be honest. Every time I went there, I had some weird or bad experiences, even when I had my own car. But it's just my first love actually was hitchhiking to go to school because he didn't have enough money to pay for the bus. So, and every night he was coming and being like, "Oh, I met that person and I had this opportunity and everything thanks to that." So I was like, "Oh, that's really cool," and it gave me the will to try. But yeah, and also we have a lot of TV shows in France that are about hitchhiking, so that definitely helps also.
Okay, and I saw on your profile you're big into the outdoors. You moved to Canada to do wildlife studies.
Yeah, wildlife management. So basically, it's like hunting and fishing, but I don't like to call it like that because it's so much more. But basically, we do like a winter survival. We do everything related to taking care of the environment, basically.
So you were like basically like the outdoor girl, the outdoor woman.
Yeah. Like before I was 15, there was no way I was going on a trail if the dogs weren't coming. I wasn't interested in that. But after when I was 15, I started like camping, hiking, and climbing a bit, and I really loved it. And yeah, after that, I was really into that. And when I moved to Canada, it's like the magical place for this. So it blew up even more.
Why did you leave Canada?
To go on that big trip. Otherwise, I would have stayed there for sure.
So you think that's something you'll do when you go back? So you're going to do your trip, you're going to go back to France and then maybe return to Canada?
I don't know. I have a lot of projects, to be honest. First, I want to stay a little bit in France, in Europe, because it's going to be like more than 8 years now, and I want to be closer to the family and everything. So I'll stay in Europe. I have another big trip coming. But yeah, the goal one day I will go back for sure. But I want to avoid taking the plane for now. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is it like an environmental issue? Is it like you just don't like flying? Like what is it about planes?
Yeah, it's definitely environmental issues first. And also because since I started thinking like this, every little trip needed to become a real adventure. And that's what I really liked about that. Because I was like, oh, it will not be that easy to go back to see my friends in Canada if I don't want to take the plane because I need to do a transatlantic. And I've always dreamed of doing that. So there's also that thing. It's a mix of both, I think. Environmental and yeah, go ahead.
You would consider doing the transatlantic across the ocean, like on a boat?
One day, yeah, I will. Definitely would like to do that. I have a lot of plans in my head that I cannot talk about it right now because it's too big and too crazy. But I have a plan.
That's okay. So now I'd love to get into this current adventure because this is insane. Like, wait, in the best possible, you know, starting in Indonesia, all the way to France, Paris. You said
Marseille.
Marseille. Okay, Indonesia to Marseille as a solo female hitchhiker. Like
Yep.
the amount of courage that it takes. I have a couple older sisters, and they talk about one of them is a big solo traveler, and some of the stories that she tells me of stuff that she has to go through that I don't have to go through is just so. I'll start with what's been the biggest challenge you faced so far?
Having my visa for India. If we don't talk about a challenge that is men related, it would be that. Because I really thought that I would have to take the plane because I had a deadline there because I was hosting a group trip. So that would be the biggest challenge and the thing that I thought would make me quit the trip in a way.
The visa for India.
Yeah, it was hell because it's easy when you arrive by plane, but by land you need to wait like over a month. I waited like 4 days at the embassy, coming there every day, being like, I need my visa. So yeah.
And then, how'd that get resolved? Like you just wait and they eventually give it to you?
Yeah, I was almost crying to the girl that was there. I was like, please, please, I don't want to quit. I explained her the whole trip and everything. I was like, please, I really don't want to take the plane. This is the dream of my life, blah blah blah. And I don't know, she pushed it and it worked. And like next to me there was a Russian guy that was trying to get his visa. He's been cancelled. There was another guy, he had been waiting for like 2 months and he couldn't get it. Like I was just so lucky.
Oh, that's awesome. I find that like, especially with travelers, I hear these stories all the time about people that like almost didn't get something, and then if you just like kind of go for it, it tends to work itself out.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
No, sometimes it always work out when it needs to. Mm,
yeah, yeah.
crazy.
Or it doesn't, and then you adjust.
Yeah, but it always like in the end you're like, that's why it didn't work out. It's because there was something else waiting. Always.
Okay, so you started in Indonesia. You went from there into Southeast Asia. From India, where'd you go?
Indian, I went to Pakistan, then China, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan again, Russia, and now Georgia.
And from the looks of your videos, it seemed like Pakistan might have been your favorite.
Actually, I think it was in India maybe because like I feel like when you're in India, you really step into a kind of fantasy book. It's really something that you could have never seen anywhere else in the world. From my experience, from what I've seen in the world. And I know a lot of people tell that, and at first I was like, oh, shut up, but it's really true. But yeah, Pakistan, I loved it as well. The only thing though is that I didn't had all the experiences that I wanted to have there. Like I had a lot of waiting, like waiting after friends, waiting around other people. So I spent a lot of days doing like not so much. Ended up just doing one hike and everything. So yeah, that really didn't help.
Okay, okay, so you're not just hitchhiking. Like you're doing things when you get there. Like you're,
Oh yeah,
what are you?
yeah. No, the goal is not to go through. Otherwise, I would have been back in France for a while. Like right now, I'm volunteering for 2 weeks in a hotel. Yeah, I want to explore the country and do some trekking, things like that. Otherwise, yeah, I don't see. For me, I don't see the point.
Yeah, it's just about a destination. It's a journey. I get that.
Mm.
And then, so a question I had was, what about language barriers? Like, how do you talk to people that don't speak your language as you're doing this?
Google Translate. I download the language first. I download the keyboard, and we talk like that. Sometimes it's tricky because when you don't have internet, because in a lot of countries I don't take internet, they cannot speak. So when they're driving, it kind of makes it harder. And sometimes the truth is, sometimes a lot of times when hitchhiking, you just don't talk with the person. I mean, when you have sometimes 2 or 5 hours together, sometimes you just run out of things to say.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, I get that. That's cool. So
Yeah.
I'm surprised that you said India was your favorite because you started off by saying how hard it was to get in, but I'm glad it worked out. Um, and then as an American, like we're terrible at geography. So like Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, like I know where these are, but like if you had to asked me maybe 5 years ago, I wouldn't be able to point to these on a map. So that's cool that you're exploring a part of the world that is not super touristic. Like,
No, definitely not. And at first, it wasn't even the plan. The first plan was actually to go so from Southeast Asia, cross China to go to Mongolia, and then from Mongolia, Russia, Kazakhstan, and then Georgia. Uh, but well, actually, Kazakhstan, and I wanted to cross the sea, but Azerbaijan is closed now. But yeah, I went to India because I had this opportunity of hosting a group trip, and I was like, oh wow, that's awesome. So let's do this, and it completely changed my itinerary, and for the best, because I went to amazing countries I wouldn't have went to otherwise, like Pakistan, for example, and that I really loved. So yeah.
what about Pakistan was so special? Like how you're right now, you're in Pakistan and you're trying to convince me or your friend to come join you. What are you telling them about Pakistan? It's so great.
First, the north, because in the south, I don't know. The people are freaking amazing. Like so generous. You can drink tea in everyone's house. Like Pakistan people are incredibly generous. I felt so safe, especially compared to what I thought I would be. And yeah, like the landscapes are like out of this world. Like the mountains and everything. It's really really sick. And yeah, the vibe is just amazing. Like yeah, people, landscapes, loved it.
And earlier I asked you about like the hardest thing, and you said the India visa. What about the hardest thing, interpersonal, like with people? Like, have you ever been mistreated? Have you ever been talked about? Have you ever been?
Yeah, I've talked about it, and it's actually thanks to that my account blew up. But in Indonesia, so when I was starting my trip, I was picked up by a guy in Bromo. It was pouring rain, and like it was a shitty day, and he picked me up and he dropped me in King Kong Hill, so the place I wanted to camp. And at first, I thought it was a like I saw that it was a camp. There was camping spot, and there was, but like there was no one. It was just me and him, and we started talking a bit, like through Google Translate. And you know when you feel like when you're like there's something wrong, but in your head you're like it's fake. Like I just keep making things up in my head.
Yeah.
Thing is, it wasn't fake. And so he was like, yeah, put your tent now. And usually I never do that. I always like go out of the way, find a way where people didn't see me, they don't know that I'm here. They don't see the tent and everything. But I listened to him. I don't know why. But well, because he seemed kind and he was like, oh, put it. And anyway, I was like, okay, do you know if that restaurant is open up there? And he was like, no. And I was starving. I didn't eat all day. He was like, okay, I'll go get some food and come back. That's what he did. And when he come back, it was night. We chatted for like 30 minutes. And then I was like, okay, I want to sleep. Can you leave? And he was like, well, you can sleep if I'm here. I'm like, hell no. And he was like, what? After everything that I've done for you, yada, yada, yada. I was like, I don't care. And for like 30 minutes we chatted, but like it was a fight, but on Google Translate. Like it was surreal. So probably because of that, I wasn't so stressed out, and he was like this. So I was like, maybe I can defend myself. But yeah, and in the end, he started to ask me for a kiss. He started telling me that he could pay me, then that I needed to give him money and everything. But yeah, after that, he was like, I screamed at him, and he was like, okay, well, don't move, I'll bring some friends. And now I was like, oh shit, because he even against me, 101. Okay.
You got to leave.
Me against 5 guys, I'm fucked.
Yeah.
So I packed my stuff like so fast. I don't even know why I packed it, but I was just like, oh yeah, I like my tent. I packed everything. I started running down the hill and stopped at the first guest house that I found. And I just stared at the woman. I was like, help me. And so I quickly explained on Google Translate, like, there's a man following me. I need a room. She put me there and then explained everything. They called like the leaders of the village. They found the guy because I had a video of him. And yeah, in the end, till like 3 a.m. I was like with the leaders of the village and him arguing. And at the end, they were like, "Oh yeah, it was just misunderstanding." So like, yeah, sure. And I tried to have info about what happened to him because after a few months, another girl talked to me about it, and she was like, "I got the same situation. They told me that a girl did a video on him that went viral, and they don't want that to happen again. So they asked her not to put anything on social media about this guy." It's like, what the fuck? Because it was the same guy, and so I think it froze.
I can.
Okay. And okay, you were just moving, so I thought it was freezing. But yeah, so I asked news about this guy to the police. I was like, yeah, like, what happened? And they never really answered me. So I actually plan to release his face soon because I had so many girls talking to me about Bromo and guys being, yeah, not like just too much there and scary. So I mean, it needs to be talked about.
It definitely does, especially because you see that a lot where guys, like, they think that if they're nice for 20 minutes, it gives them carte blanche to do whatever, like, oh, I was nice, you owe me.
Well, yeah, and especially like what someone explained to me is that in those countries, like, and well, people talk to me about Indonesia, but from my perspective, it happened a lot, like not a lot, but a bit in Pakistan as well, like that people are really nice, and if you stand up for yourself and say stop it, they will. But people think that because you're a white girl, if they insist a lot, it's gonna work because they know that we're less religious and we don't obviously wait for the wedding, and that sometimes people can like sleep with each other, but they don't get that thing that we still need to have a feeling. Like a lot of people don't get that apparently. So I think that's why as well. And if they keep insisting, it's gonna work out. So,
yeah. I don't. I'm trying to think of like if you had to rank the ways that it would work out to hooking up with someone, like usually if they say no, it's not get like, oh, let me convince her over 4 hours.
yeah.
Like that's out. It's like I'm trying to think the only ways that seem less successful than that are sliding into a girl's DMs and catcalling a woman on the street.
Yeah, that was yeah, no, definitely. They're like, oh no, if she say no, known her for like 15 minutes, but I insist it's gonna be good. Like, what the fuck are you thinking? Like,
that's crazy.
Like it's in the comment I saw someone like it's not a bargain.
Yeah,
Definitely.
it's what if maybe trying to buy? He said he tried to buy you, tried to like offer
Yeah,
money.
he was like, if like kiss me and I'll give you like 200,000 Indonesian rupees. I don't remember how much it makes in euros, but like even if it was a lot, I mean, but yeah, he was like, hey, I'll give you money. I was like, I don't care about your money, like.
Wow.
But yeah, it's only when I screamed at him that first he left the tent, then he stayed, and then I had to scream at him again to make him leave. It was crazy, but but it was fine in the end. Like,
all right,
story to tell.
So we get, and I get this too, where we get like you post a lot of the videos about traveling, and it all looks wonderful and it all looks great because it's different, and you're highlighting the best possible stuff. Most people.
Yeah. I try. That's the whole goal of my account is to show the real side. I also show when it's shitty and everything. That's like my DA.
Okay, so if you had to break it down to like how, like obviously not every day is going to be perfect, not every day is going to be bad, but you said you try to show everything, and overall, what's been something that has been? I want to hear both sides of it. So I want to hear what has been like you thought the most disappointing situation where you thought this place would be great based on what you heard, and then you're the opposite of that, where you were like underwhelmed going in, but you were excited afterward.
Okay. So the first one, what I thought would be amazing and was pretty bad-ish, Bali, of course. Like, I mean, it's a nice place. But yeah, it's not what you see on Instagram at all. Like, actually, it's just Instagram land. Like, there's places you're like, oh, I'm gonna see a good view. You go there, and you need to pay to enter, and it's like an attraction park, but for Instagrammer. Like, you have a nest to take picture, then you have a platform, then you have like other things, and you're like, what the fuck? People don't even care about the view, and I don't know. I didn't enjoy it that much, except Ahmed. Ahmed, I really liked. Um, but yeah, uh, it was interesting. That's what I expected. And on the opposite, something that I thought I wouldn't like and that I liked India. I was supposed to stay there for 2 weeks, like do my group trip, leave. I stayed there a month and a half. And the only reason I left at the time was because I don't want it to be too late in Kyrgyzstan. But man, you can spend a lifetime in India and you still can see things.
India's like I have a list of places that I haven't been that I want to go, and India's probably top three for me. So everything you're saying makes me really want to go, especially
I want to
because
go there.
okay. So I gotta ask. My favorite food is Indian food, but like with like one exception, like I'm pretty weak when it comes to spicy food. So like, is everything there super spicy?
No, it depends where you go in India. Because basically, it was my favorite food also before coming to India. When I was in India, I'm like, I'm never going to taste the Indian food in other countries the same. But basically, in the north, it's not spicy at all. And what's amazing about India is that you have hundreds of countries in one. So if you go really in the south, from what I've heard, because I haven't been in the south, but it's really, really spicy, and people eat more with their hands. Where in the north, they still do eat with their hands, but less than in the south. There's different languages in every region. It's crazy.
Oh wow, that's yeah, and that sounds amazing. Like I love Indian food from other countries, so I imagine once being there, it'd be awesome. And you had a
That's what I miss. That's what I miss the most when I'll be back in France. It's like good. Well, I miss it now. It's like there's no way any country will be that.
would you? So we have a question here from Helen
Mhm.
Hatfurdick. She said, "Would you recommend doing a Southeast Asia backpacking trip as someone's first trip?"
Yeah. As someone first trip, I think it's the best. Unless you're not scared at all, big in the outdoors, and you've traveled around your own country and you want something different. But otherwise, Southeast Asia, it's so easy to travel because like there's buses like every day, everywhere. There's hostel everywhere. It's really cheap. You can find a lot of people to travel with. At the first time trip, it's like the best flight, I think.
Okay,
But
yeah,
the only thing that made me be like, at the end of my trip in South Asia is that it's big on like party and like this kind of thing. It's really big on party. If you want to do more nature thing, it's more difficult and you'll find less travelers to do it. But there's still like amazing people and everything.
yeah. That's always been more exciting to me because I don't drink or smoke, not religiously or anything, but just
Yeah.
as personal. And so,
Yeah.
like when that always kind of scared me away from going to that part of the world because every time all my friends who traveled, I go there. It's like, oh, I got hammered till 4 in the morning, and then we went to a rave. You know, like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a lot like that. But I mean, that's the thing. I also met like the my favorite people I met on my trip. Who I met him there as well. You know, when I saw him in India after. Um, so you can still find adventurous people. It's just a little bit more tricky because, like for example, in Kyrgyzstan, like most of the travelers that you'll find are adventurous travelers. They want to go horse riding, they want to go hiking, they want to be in nature. Where in Southeast Asia, sometimes it's just for cheap beer that they come, you know. So yeah, but I think there's still way to get out of the beaten path, but it's more complicated. And the thing is that you need a guide for a lot of things, even like easy hikes or anything. You need to pay or you need a guide. So yeah, but yeah, the first time trip, I think it's good. But for example, for you, I think it's nice if you go there with a project, like mountain that you want to climb, or a specific trip with like just a map and a compass, it can be amazing. But yeah, like the hostel vibe is there, definitely.
Okay. Someone asked, could you please share the route you took from Indonesia? So you kind of did that already, where you talked about.
I said after India, but basically I really need to put that like somewhere on my Instagram. But basically Indonesia, after I've done most of Southeast Asia, so Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, North Vietnam, China, went through Tibet, Nepal, India. And after I went Pakistan all the way up to Russia.
How was Tibet?
It was interesting. The thing is, Tibet, you obviously need to have you need to have a guide. You're not allowed to go through. So it's the only place I haven't hitchhiked. But India as well. India, I just hitchhiked like one day I was freaking scared because of all the things people told me. So I took the train there most of the time. But yeah, Tibet, it's so big. I don't like taking guides. Even hiking, like it's not something that I like. So it was really weird because basically they show you what they want to show you, you know. But yeah, like for example, sorry?
What do you mean by that?
Well, you cannot really talk with people. You just see a lot of buildings, and they're like, "Oh, Dalai Lama used to be there. Now it's empty." And when I was trying to speak about the history and everything, it was tricky. Like, you cannot talk about everything. You're not allowed to give interviews there as a foreigner. Like, there was people coming, like, and they were doing a documentary, and the guide was like, no, don't do it. Sometimes we wanted to take pictures. He was like, no, please, it can be like, it could be bad for him, basically, if we misbehave, because it would be on him. So we really needed to, like, act by the book, basically.
Is it because it's so propagandized?
Yeah, like you see sometimes you go out of temples and you have big pictures of like a big flag of China, but like made on rock. I don't know if that makes sense. Or like the place that shocked me, but like the place where the Dalai Lama used to live, so in Lhasa. So you have the big castle, I don't know how to call it, and a big place. And in this big place, just in front of the castle, you have a giant picture of the president of China. Like I never saw a picture that big. So yeah, but we made a lot of road as well, like a lot. So you don't get to see that much in the end. I was there 7 days, but we were mostly on the road.
Okay. One of the things that I struggle with when I get like tours, for example, of history is I'm in Luanda and I just had a walking tour here. And I've done these in a lot of different countries. And it's always like history to me is always like this guy killed a bunch of people and then took over this land. You know, so it's never been interesting to me. It's like, oh, what man killed this many people to take over this land before another man came into this thing? You know, I'm more interested in like the natural history of places, like the geography or nature.
Well, I wasn't interested in history, to be honest, and it's still not my biggest passion. But more and more, I'm like, oh, I want to get to know that. But I'm someone who, like, sorry, I'm not able to learn deep things by myself. By that I mean I'm gonna get bored. If you give me a book, a YouTube video that is 1 hour long, and this happened, I will be like, bye. But if you give me someone that is interested by it and that will talk to me about it, I'm gonna ask questions and I'm gonna be super interested. But for example, in Tibet, this is complicated to have because they're just not allowed, and bad things can happen to them if they do it too, you know.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Are you, so we had a question in the comments that kind of reminded me of where I was going to go with you next. Do you do like Workaway or World Packers? How do you find jobs when?
Yeah. I do World Packers mostly. I've been doing in a hostel in Bali, one in Thailand, working in a school in Cambodia. And now this one, though, I found it through a guy who followed me on Instagram. He sent me a DM being like, "Hey, I know you're looking for like something in a ski resort. I'm volunteering here if you want to join." So that's how I found this one.
Are you good at skiing?
Snowboarding.
Snowboard.
Yeah. Well, I'm not the best, but like I can do things.
Oh.
I-
There was what?
I've been working in ski resort for the last 3 winters, so I had the free pass. So of course I was like going a lot. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and you're from like you said, you're from France and you lived in Canada, so there's been like a lot. Um, did you ever consider doing it in like is there snowboarding in Pakistan and India or?
In Pakistan, probably. I don't know if they have ski resorts. Maybe. But no, I haven't because like it was not like the good season. I've done a bit in Kyrgyzstan and Mideu, and now I'm gonna do some here. The ski resort opened like 2 days ago, so I'm gonna go there soon.
Is that why you decided to hang out for?
Sorry?
Is that why you decided to hang out for a bit?
Yeah. Yeah. And also right now I'm like closer to France. So I'm like, I'm gonna edit like as much as I can, like that. When I'll be back in France, I can just like slow down and enjoy the family.
That's something that gives me fear, actually. Not the family part, but the whenever I travel, I'm like free and lively and doing all these great things. But then whenever I come back home, it's like it's great for a couple days, but then it's like now what? Do you ever have
Yeah.
that?
When I was coming back from Canada, not really, because it was only like not such a long time. But at first, after this trip, I was like thinking about coming back to France. I was like, oh my gosh, like it's not gonna be possible. But then I started having projects. Like I have a lot of things that I want to do in France, on different subjects, and I want to start a YouTube channel. And I have so many ideas of videos that I want to do with other creators as well. So I'm like, I have so many projects that there's no way I'm gonna get bored. In worst case, I have like friends a bit like everywhere in Europe, so I'll go see them. But that is if I start making money out of Instagram, because right now it's not that good at all, actually. So if I cannot, I'll need to find a job. But I'll see.
I'm sure you'll be able to find something. You have a big following. You're interesting. You're charismatic. I'm sure you'll be able to find something. Although YouTube, as I'm sure you noticed.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll see. We'll try.
So you said you had YouTube ideas. Anything you want to share, or are you still keeping those private?
I'll keep those private for now.
Besides that,
But yeah, basically, if I can say one thing, is that it's not going to be just travel, because basically, I'm not interested in travel videos on YouTube. It's not what I watch. It's not what I like. So it would be a mix between traveling and a concept. So basically, having a big goal, having like, yeah, concept, whatever it is, and this concept will bring us, like me and a guest, to travel, basically. But it will not be like a, hey, I explored like this national park today. I'm not I'm not watching this kind of videos, so I don't plan to do any like that.
Okay. Well, that sounds actually, it's funny. That sounds similar to like a YouTube idea that I had. So after I get off the air, I'll text you and I want to see if it's similar. You don't have to tell me, okay?
You know, let's go. We'll do a video together. And actually, yeah, there's one that I can share. It's called Dorm Room Talks. And if any of you guys watch and want to be part of it, you can check in my highlights YouTube. Basically, I made a forum with people sharing their travel stories, either scam or betrayal, love. Like it can be good or bad. And basically, they share their stories. And with like one guest, I'm gonna be sitting, sipping coffee, and we'll like read those stories and react to them and everything.
Okay. So it's almost like a podcast on your own.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, that's super cool. Doing this was interesting because I noticed that there's almost like a community, like Timo, and like when you're doing adventurous stuff, Instagram will automatically show you other people who are doing similar things. And so I was just finding there was a lot of people that were doing amazing things around the world that if you
Yeah.
just cited what they're doing, I thought that could be a cool concept.
No, definitely. Like, I mean, when I started this trip, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm the only one in the world doing this, no, no, no. And then, especially, you start sharing it, and you're like, oh fuck, I'm not special, bro. Like, but that's cool, because that's a big community, and it's so nice to find people who are as adventurous as you, who do crazy things like you. But yeah, like everything that you've done, somebody done it before. But yeah, like, no, there's a lot of really cool creator and really cool adventurers.
Yeah, it's a crazy experience. So you said YouTube. Anything else that's next that you would share, or like you said, is it all? You said you had a lot of dreams.
Yeah, well, there's another plan, like another trip that I have in mind when I'll have enough money, and it will only start in 2026 anyway. Um, but yeah, it's pretty big, and I'll wait for it. But it's basically, if I see my life in the next few years, let's say that this Instagram thing works and that I have enough money, because otherwise I'll need to work and it will change everything. But if I can be paid by brands and everything, I have like basically my life would be like a big trip, some rest, another big trip, some rest, and all of these will be part of a big puzzle that would everyone would think I'm crazy if I say it now, so will not.
Just like continual travel with a little rest in between.
Yeah, exactly. Like getting back to the family, to the friends, doing other project, and then going back at it. But always like I don't think I would want to be like, hey, I'm leaving for whatever, like Thailand, and I don't know when I'll come back or whatever. Like I want a goal, you know. I want, yeah. There's a guideline.
Have you considered doing any writing?
Uh, My dad convinced me to write a book. Let's see if I do it. But I actually used to be a writer, kind of. Like when I was 15, actually, I was writing things on Wattpad. I don't know if you know what it is.
Yes, I do.
So yeah, I was writing on Wattpad, and I had one that was worked pretty well. And but I never finished it. And the other one, it's a fantasy book, and I completed it. Like I wrote a full book, like 300-400 pages or something. But yeah, so maybe I'll write about this trip. I don't know. I'll see.
What was the book about, if you don't mind me asking?
It's well, it's complicated, but now there would be things that you cannot say anymore that are in it. You know, like I had, like for example, I had. So basically, it was fantasy, and there was different. Um, but how do you say it? Like the elves, and then the things like this. I don't know how you call it, but the thing like this. And there were different cities. There were one. So the main one is like magician, and my girl, she didn't had any power because she lost it when she was younger because she couldn't control it, blah blah blah. And basically the story was that she, like, everyone turned crazy for whatever reason, and they needed to go in the enchanted mountains to like find what happens and things like this. But it was it's really complicated to explain, especially in English, because there's so many things and it's so long to explain.
You know what's funny is I don't talk to many people about this, but I actually wrote a French book. I wrote a book, and it was a fantasy too.
Oh, really? Is it on Wattpad?
No, it's on my computer.
Oh, that's cool. When did you write it?
I wrote it during COVID. I was super depressed, and it was a dark book. It's I'll tell you the concept. So it's in Suicide Forest in Japan. Um,
Okay.
so I wrote about how that's not a place where where people go to kill themselves, but it's a place where time stands still.
Oh.
So like 1 year in the outside world is like 1,000 years on the inside world. So I just talk about how like Beethoven, Marie Curie, Mozart, Da Vinci, like there's no real geniuses in the world. They're just people that went into this world, came out 6 months later, and were just better than everyone because they had more time. And so, thank you. so after, but the problem is most people, the reason why it looks like people kill themselves is because the forest rejects you if you fail the test going out. And so I kind of incorporated that in. But I threw a lot in that. Like I made it to where like there's like a
I,
bunch of magical creatures and stuff because during the Constantine's era of power, when he tried to make Christianity the worldwide religion, he was killing all the unicorns and the griffins and everything, so they escaped into the forest. So it's like a bunch of different stuff. But
okay, but
um,
have you tried editing it or something?
yeah, so I published a couple books. I published one in Spanish and one in Italian, with a Spanish publisher and an Italian publisher. And
Oh wow.
the Spanish publisher really liked the concept, and she actually paid someone to translate it into Spanish. So I think that one's going to publish in the next 6 months or so, but I'm not really sure. Thank you. Yeah, that's
Congrats.
the plan to be a writer. That was like the goal. But writing, man, you get like $2 per book. Like, and if
Yeah.
people don't bar, like, if you look at me on Goodreads, which is like Rotten Tomatoes for books,
Uh-huh.
I, I have one book that's on there. It's got 4.8 out of 5 stars, but it's got like 16 reviews. Like, no one knows I exist.
Yeah, yeah, no, like authors are like, man, they don't earn any money and like, and it's all their work. Like, unless it becomes big, like Hunger Games, Harry Potter, or whatever, wow, it's hell to live from that.
Yeah, you just can't live off of it. It's like I was a writer and I also was a substitute teacher in America. And the reason I did that because I never wanted to commit to like a career. I was like, no, I'm gonna make it as a writer. And then it's like, you know, so this is one of the reasons why I'm walking Africa myself is because I wanted to have more book material and learn and do all the cool stuff. Yeah.
Oh, you're definitely gonna have like things to share for sure. You
Yeah,
can still make it as a writer.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
people don't, you can make it at 70, 60, 80, whatever.
I hope I make it before then.
Yeah, it would be nice, but still.
Yeah. There's it's funny. I talked to my friend and he said the interesting thing. He said in order like to be like successful, especially financially in this world, you really only need to be successful once. Like
True,
if you're
yeah.
a YouTube channel or a book, like for example, I've written about 9 books now, and if one of them blows up, I'm good, and then the other 7 or 8 will because people will be like, oh, I like what that guy wrote. Let me try to do this thing.
Yeah. No, definitely. Exactly.
Yeah, and so I'm so impressed by your journey. I'm so impressed by everything you're doing. Before I get you out of here, I did want to ask you a couple questions about budget travel.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, so what's your what's your weekly allowance?
Actually, I don't have any. In the way that I don't budget. Because there's weeks that I'm gonna spend like $10, and there's others, like for example, when I was doing my scuba diving license, where I would and was having friend and party, I would be like, I don't know, 400, 600. So basically, I just try to kind of keep it as low as possible while still enjoying the place and the experiences that I have. But yeah, now that I'm in Europe almost, it's gonna be like I'm gonna budget more for sure. But in Southeast Asia, you don't really think about it, to be honest, because it's so cheap for us that comes like from Europe or from America. But yeah, I don't have like a weekly thing.
Okay, so do you have any tips of like how to be besides just hitchhiking? Do you have any tips of like saving money for the traveler who's new to traveling?
Worldpackers, of course. That's a really good way, and it's also nice. Well, Worldpacker, Workaway, whatever.
What
And it's also really nice. Sorry.
you want to tell them what World
Yes.
Packers is if you don't?
Yeah, yeah. Basically, it's a website. You pay an annual fee that is like $40, I think, and after you can you can find volunteering as much as you want, and for as long as you want. So yeah, it's a nice way to volunteer, and in exchange you have a room for free, sometimes food, sometimes laundry as well. Like you can have a lot of food for free in exchange of like 3-4 hours a day. So that's pretty basic. Otherwise, there's so many websites that I didn't really use, but that I know of. Trusted house sitters, like it's more expensive. Like the membership is like 100 or something, but you have a house just by yourself, and you just need to take care of the cat or the dog. Um, then there's couch surfing. This is for short stays more. Basically, you can text the locals that are there and you sleep on the couch, or if they have a spare room or something, and it's totally free. The membership is like $12, I think. Yeah, so these are websites that can really be useful if you want to travel for cheap.
Okay, and then like food, like you just eat at restaurants, cook. Like, how do you?
In Southeast Asia, mostly, yeah, because like the hostels don't have kitchens most of the time. But like food is so cheap, especially if you go to local restaurants. It's you can have for $1, $2, $3 maximum dollars for a meal. If you go to locals ones, and yeah, otherwise when you arrive to Central Asia and Europe, most of the hostels have kitchens, so you can use this. Otherwise, you can just buy your own food and cook on a stove if you're really on a budget.
How many days of your trip have you stayed in a tent compared to stayed inside? Like,
Most
percentage.
days I spend inside, to be honest. That's one thing that I kind of regret about my trip. I would like to have it more roots. But yeah, like in Central Asia, I spend more time also because it's more allowed, basically. But yeah, in India, when I was doing the treks, Pakistan, just a few nights. And in Southeast Asia, it's just that because I was like on those, like I was not going too much out of the beaten path. There's no way that you can camp, and plus it's like always fields. There's fields everywhere. I've cycled from Bangkok to Chiang Mai in 7 days,
Oh, wow.
and yeah, and every time I was sleeping in a local's home because there was just fields and I couldn't just put my tent there. I spent like one night. It was like in just next to a McDonald's. Like there was some bushes. I was like, oh, I'm gonna sleep there. But other than that, it's pretty complicated.
Okay. And then like, did you feel safe always? Besides the one time when the guy.
Not always. I mean, there's always that moment in your head, and like when you just set up the tent and you start hearing noises, and and you're just like, oh, it can be like someone who's gonna kill me or like whatever. Like you make up scenarios in your head, especially when you're alone. But usually I download like a video of YouTube on my phone, and then I just put it and I listen to the video and I fell asleep.
Oh,
But yeah, the first few moments, unless I'm really deep in nature, but if I'm like near a city or in a park or something like that, yeah, you're a little bit like, don't want anyone to bother.
what's your if you had to tell yourself something now at the beginning of your trip, something you wish you would have done differently, what would that be?
Be more roots.
Yeah.
Really, like my first trip in Australia, I was really roots. Like I had no money. I was eating oats and water in the morning, and after like I've been doing that for a month, and like dinner and lunch was just like rice and red lentils, like for a month. And I was putting my tent in the worst place possible. Like what the fuck? And I loved it. And on that trip, I don't know, I feel like I was maybe more scared. And it's only uh, when I was in Kyrgyzstan and I met Robin. He's doing France to Mongolia hitchhiking, and he's roots as fuck. And we traveled a bit together, and I was like, fuck yeah, that's what I like. And so now I'm doing it more.
Yeah. I think there's something peaceful about like not having to rely on everything being down to the roots as much as possible.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. But yeah, I think I was just too scared when starting. Um, Yeah, I was just too scared, I think.
Okay, so that's good to know. And then you've got to get ready, I think, for your work shift. But before, and we've had a good time on this call. I've really appreciated having you on. But before I go, is there anything you wish to tell everybody or ask, or is there anything you want to share that I haven't gotten to?
Mm, I'm so bad at it. If you guys have any questions, shoot them. Otherwise, if you just dream of going traveling, I know it's not easy for everyone, especially depending of the country you live in and the economy that your country have. But yeah, I guess just I don't know, just trust in yourself, work a lot if needed. I'm running out of battery, and there's it's only you that can make it happen. So just go for it. There's no
So
magic trick, basically.
just start, basically. Okay, that's
Yep.
a wonderful. Thank you so much for
Thank
joining me
you.
here. It's a lot to commit this to someone you don't know, so I really appreciate it, and I really look forward to watching you get eventually to France and seeing your YouTube channels and all that. And I'll make sure to be one of the first.
Thank you so much. All
Thank you so
right.
much.
Well, let's keep each other updated, and if you do your YouTube or put your book out, share it too.
Thank you so much. And then
Thank
thank
you.
you everyone. It's a pleasure having you here. And as always, we'll have I'm gonna leave the video up on my Instagram for just long enough until I can extract the audio. And then I don't like having like long videos on
Right.
YouTube or Instagram. Delete it. And then I'm gonna post the link to Spotify so you can listen to the audio only, and then we'll share that when it's up.
Cool. Thank you so much, guys, for watching.
No problem. Take care, guys. And